folks. Welcome to the channel, Rockin' the Country. I'm Don. I react to non-pop country music and sometimes interviews just to get to know the artist. And Renegade for Dwight, aka Renee Mooberry, made a gift to the channel for me to do this reaction to an interview of Dwight Yoakam. So we're going to learn more about Dwight. I've become a big fan of Dwight's in the last 3 or 4 months, primarily due to Renee's influence and gift requests to the channel, which, you know, I gained a lot of exposure to Dwight, who he is as a person, who he is as a thinker. To me, he's a philosopher. And that's how he approaches a lot of things, very detail-oriented in his music and other things. He parses his words very carefully, chooses them carefully, puts a lot of thought into everything he does. And in any case, thank you for this gift, Renee. Renee had originally requested one of her other favorite artists, which is LeAnn Rimes. And it was a song that was a little too pop for the channel, which you might expect because it hit #1 on the hot country Billboard charts when she was only 14. So it's kind of tough for me to not do that one simply because, or out of respect for the fact that LeAnn was 14 with a #1 song. I mean, that's just ridiculous, you know? But when something is on the hot Billboard charts, you know it's probably going to be not as traditional as I like them to be anyhow, and most folks anyway, because my goal is to resurrect traditional country music and its storylines. So in any case, let's see what Dwight's got to say. Dwight's just arguably the most unique performer I've seen. He's just himself. Here we go.
Next up, a guy who doesn't grant very many interviews. He just doesn't seem to like them.
Well, that's understandable, but when Dwight Yoakam's office called inviting us to Los Angeles for a chat, we, of course, jumped at the opportunity, but actually, more accurately, Terry Bumgarner jumped at the opportunity.
Yes,
right?
and you really, when you got there, you got more from this interview than you were expecting, didn't you?
Yeah, I think so. Now, you guys have talked to him before. You know, in person, he's a very bright guy. He's very warm. He's an extremely likable guy. Sometimes in interviews, he comes off as a little cool, a little detached.
Or I've sensed sometimes that he might be a little guarded with the media.
Perhaps, but in this case, he was funny, and he was surprisingly emotional in a couple of instances. In fact, in this case, perhaps he did let his guard down a bit. At one point, he even got a little bit choked up when talking about a very special person in his life.
Hey, you suffered through the anxiety of getting me here, so I'm here now. Go ahead and take advantage of it.
Take my best shot, huh? Boom.
Yeah.
Dwight Yoakam has let more people than usual take their best shots lately, from a variety of publications to The Tonight Show to his appearance as the CMT Showcase Artist of the Month. He's doing it to support his first album of all-new material in 3 years.
She said, baby, things change. This album was one of the most satisfying experiences of my life in terms of the music that came out of the work that Pete Anderson, myself, and the band put in.
A Long Way Home is a very personal work. Dwight was its sole songwriter, and it all flowed from what Dwight knew almost immediately would be the title song.
All right, I'm going to say, too, just so you know, Dwight was initially rejected by Nashville earlier in his career, so he went out to California, and then different things happened, but it took him something like 9 years. He was living in a friend's literal, like, closet off the kitchen or something, so when a door opened, it would hit him. So he, you know, but he believed in his art, and he kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. But they didn't get him. Nashville didn't get him at first, and then eventually country music got him.
Don't look inside, don't look there.
I knew the moment I said, don't look inside, and don't look there, you know, because you might find yourself somewhere that's what that was about. And this whole album came together because of that. That was the catalyst for all the work on this album.
Deep in the night, you hear a voice calling.
Dwight was clearly moved by the contribution of his mentor, Ralph Stanley, to one song, and by that song's inspiration.
I wrote the song Traveler's Lantern off of my current album. Hearing the voice of my grandmother, Earlene Tibbs, kind of echo in my ears, and that quivering, haunting mountain voice that she possessed. And probably anything good in me came as a legacy of her through my mother. I mean, not anything in deference to my father. He's a good man. But a lot of the things that are good in me came through that. Ralph Stanley did me the great honor and service of standing in for her. And I had hoped that he would do that. And I owe him a debt of thanks and gratitude always for that. And it's odd. I didn't know that I would become emotional talking about Ralph and talking about that song, but
He probably stood in for his father too, in ways.
obviously Ralph Stanley has had a great impact in my life, and it's not something that's easy to articulate, because it has to do with things that go deeper than words and emotions that live beyond any given song.
She said you once cried my name. I said, well, baby, things change.
Obviously, this is a man who feels his music deeply. And while the album's first single is moving quickly up the charts, that's not his motivation.
The primary purpose in it is to receive that pure inspiration that I derived from it when I was a kid. The first time I saw one of those guitar slingers on television cock his leg and throw that guitar down and start doing a song, and became completely infatuated with that. In the moment that I was able to transport myself to another place.
Don't look,
another
Renee.
plane of
Save
existence,
yourself.
by doing it alone in a room, you know, and realizing the enormous satisfaction from doing that. I don't ever want to risk losing that as the primary catalyst for what I do musically.
On a more superficial note, there's that trademark hat. We've begun to see Dwight in public without it, at movie premieres and the like, but then he rarely wears it in his private life anyhow.
I kind of don't wear the hat mostly because it just feels awfully obvious when I'm just walking around. I was on my ranch the other day, and I had a ball cap on, and I was in the house doing something, and I started to run down to the barn, and I threw a cowboy hat on, and I got halfway out the door, and I got self-conscious about having the cowboy hat on. Here I'm on my ranch, and I'm messing around with the horses, and I thought, well, why am I? It's because it's become such a part of a very public part of my life that I take it off in some ways, I think, to escape it now.
You know, I asked Dwight if when he put on the hat he felt sort of like a ball player suiting up for a game, getting into the mood, and he said, well, that really just shades my eyes. so perhaps that's the real reason he wears the hat.
No big, deep meaning.
But the interesting thing is, now that he's doing movies, now that he's appearing on movie junkets without the hat, he's starting to lose the anonymity that he had walking down the street without it before. Now people are starting to recognize him.
That was such a nice interview. Why do you think after all these years he finally let the guard down and showed this soft side of him for this album?
I don't know. Perhaps it's a very personal album. It's an album that he actually wrote while he was on the location for the Newton Boys movie. He had a lot of time. He was in a remote place. These songs came from deep within him. Maybe they're just more important to him at this point. I don't know.
Not to answer for him, but did you sense the fact that he may be struggling whether he wants to take the music a step further or the acting a step further? He's very good at both.
Well, frankly, I think he wants to take them both a step further. And he wants to direct. He's just a guy with unbelievable creative abilities, and I think he wants to do all of these things to the fullest extent of his ability.
Now, on Monday, you say we see yet another side of Dwight Yoakam?
Well, we saw a little more of the serious side. We're going to see a little bit more of the funny side of Dwight. He's talking about the movies, but also about biscuits. He's an entrepreneur now.
He's on line of biscuits now.
Well, he's getting a little tickled about how this whole thing's being received, so we'll see that.
That's Monday. Thanks, Terry. Back with more in a minute.
Oh, that was good. See, I love that kind of stuff, that personal stuff. But, you know, Dwight, when he speaks, and I love this about him, and I said this, Renee, you remember this, and other folks do too. I think the first interview I saw of his was the one he did with Whoopi, and I was looking at the way he formulated his thoughts and then articulated them, and I said, he's a philosopher. That's how he approaches it, like a classical philosopher, obviously with social implications because he's speaking to the media and giving these interviews, which he knows are going to go public. But I love seeing I love getting to know the artists, and I've seen interviews of many other artists and entertainers and politicians and any other folks, and I don't know, for me it's kind of easy to read, generally speaking, when somebody may not purposely be somebody other than who they really are. Some folks, you can tell that they're kind of like creating a persona to be something other than what they're not, and they're not really comfortable in their own skin. They don't even know what their own skin is and how big or small it is. Dwight, he's unique. I use that word a lot for him. And I think there's more to the story of Dwight that's out there somewhere in there, and maybe Dwight will sing about it in some of his songs or write poetry or something that will reveal. Maybe he'll even write the book. I'd love to co-write that book with him or ghostwrite it for him. I mean, me having written books on personalities and what heaven won't be like, not what it will be like, what it, if there is such a place, this ideal world, life coaching and dance studio life, this eclectic assortment of books. But I would love to write that one because there's a story to be told. And just because somebody is famous, that doesn't mean that they're interesting. They may have interesting stories to tell, and almost everybody does who's in the limelight. They do, about this person or this contract negotiation that went to hell in a handbasket, or this funny moment, whatever. I love that kind of stuff, but it doesn't mean you get to know the person. And there's something here that'd be intriguing to me. So there you go. All right, guys, courtesy of Renee Mooberry, you now know more about Dwight Yoakam. So, renegade for Dwight, renegade for Dwight, thank you again. Have a great day, folks. I'll see you on another video, and keep rocking the country.